Boston from Portland, I started to get a little tired because it's cross country, and then down to Philly, I was a little out of it, did the show, and then I went to St. Louis, turbulent flight. That really threw me because each time there's a turbulent flight, I'm like, I assume that's it. I'm like, that's it. And the thing I think about is, what was my last tweet? Oh no,
was it a bad one?
Well, it's like,
how many
that's the
favorites
one.
did it get?
You spend your whole life trying to build something, and whatever your last tweet is your legacy. It's like, was that Miley Cyrus tweet the last thing people are going to read from me? That was my best one? Really?
Is Twitter pretty useful for you? Because for me, like, I don't have a notebook. My Twitter is my notebook.
I think you're better off. I think, well, I don't know. It's two different things. I think Twitter is a survey, and you get a general sense of what people are enjoying and whether you have confidence in a premise. But ultimately, I feel like I get lazy and comfortable with, I just got 40 retweets and 30 likes. And that's not real.
It's not, because you'll go on stage and you'll say that tweet and get nothing.
You made somebody smile, possibly, maybe. Right. And when you're on stage, you actually know, is it something that can be translated? And also, does it need more context? Or am I setting it up right? And when you're writing in a notebook, you start to imagine what it would sound like and you could fill it in. But when you have 140 characters, you're not thinking about it because you're not thinking about the next tweet relating to the previous tweet. I feel like it's a good premise builder. That's what it is, a premise builder. It lets you think, okay, if people find this idea funny, how do I make a longer concept funny? So at least it gets you started. So that's why I like Twitter, but I think it really does mess with your head. And I've gotten a pen and notebook and started trying to do that again, which is great. That's one thing I will say about flying, since I don't want to pay for internet on the flight. I can't be online. I'm writing. I'm writing again, and I love that. I love the fact I have a notebook and a pen, and I'm writing. And I'm thinking even about old jokes that I'd given up on, or old tweets that were just premises that I never. I'm like, I'll just go back on my Twitter feed and figure out what the funny premises are, and I never do.
Yeah, you never do it.
You never do, and it's not easy to they don't make it easy for you to look at your archives necessarily. So. Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be careful because then you get into the habit of writing one-liners, and if that's not what you want, which is not, it's not what I want, it's not what I do. I think particularly well. It really messes with your style.
Speaking of your style, the first time I ever heard of you, one of my good friends, a comedian named Odinaka, we're both. Oh,
man.
You know Odinaka?
From Atlanta?
Yeah.
Oh, that dude's
awesome.
Great, man.
So,
yeah, he's very kind to me. I appreciate him.
Awesome. Yeah, we're both huge Richard Pryor fans. Yeah. We'll geek out about it. And so I started reading Paul Mooney's book, Black is the New White.
Oh,
and as soon as I handed it to him, because he'd never read it, he said, "Have you ever heard of Hari Kondabolu?" I looked you up, and I didn't necessarily see the influence.
Two comics that really I get a lot of inspiration from are Stuart Lee and Paul Mooney. Stuart Lee's a British comic, kind of a long form style.
But it is the hardest job in the world, stand-up comedy. It's also an art form, I would like to think. Historically, stand-up comedy was one of the great American art forms, one of the great indigenous American art forms of the 20th century, along with jazz and comic books and the senseless high school massacre.
And I think the way he sounds almost academic at times, I think I have a lot. I've had that for years, and seeing him perform, it felt like, it's okay to have that. Like you can make that work. And Mooney, I just love how aggressive he is.
Because white folks are sensitive. They're like little white rabbits. They'll get the out of a place. You know that.
And I love the fact that he will walk people, and he's okay with that.
Look at this white woman. Don't stare at me like this. This white lady, look how you're looking at me. I have jungle eyes. I don't miss shit. You are staring at me like I've landed from the planet Nigatoris. You should see your face.
He's so blunt about it. And seeing Mooney do stand-up in Washington, D.C. when I was 20, changed my life. It changed the way I talk about race in general, with other humans, and not being afraid to say what I am feeling, and also to be on stage and be fearless.
What was your comedy like when you started compared to taking that leap to being comfortable talking about race?
For most comics, I think your first goal is to make people laugh at the end, and the idea of having a voice and saying anything is secondary. And especially, I started when I was 17 in high school. I didn't have a voice. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was mostly ripping off other people's jokes, basically. And when I was 17, I was like, this is basically a Margaret Cho joke with Indian in it. This is basically a Chris Rock joke with Indian in it.
Well, yeah, for me, it was the thing where I didn't talk about race at first.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like, especially I started a couple of years ago. So is there the elephant in the room about race?
Well, I feel like, again, it's gotten better, but initially I think there was a lot of confusion about, I'm on stage, I sound the way I sound, talk about the things I talk about. He's like, how come he's not dressing the fact he's Indian? How come he's not using an accent? How come he's not doing anything we expect him to do? And honestly, it's getting a lot better. I mean, between Aziz and Mindy Kaling and a generation getting older, and Aparna Ancherla, there's so many different people that you see that are doing unique things, and that on my end, I feel like it has gotten a lot better. But initially, when I started, it was like 2000, probably 2001, in high school and college, and it was a lot of accents. I was doing a lot of like my parents, like mocking them in the most basic ways, and using my ethnicity, I would say, like a crutch. Like I'll always have it to make fun of. And I don't think it's wrong to talk about race. I certainly don't think it's wrong to talk about your experience. But I don't think I was doing that. I think I was being dishonest, and I was using it in a fake way, in a way that, like, I know they're going to laugh, because if I kind of tokenize myself in this way, if I kind of simplify my experience, they'll laugh. Because if I actually delved into like how complicated it is, it would be a lot harder to make them laugh. And I think I realized, no, but that's more rewarding if you dig a little deeper. And also seeing Mooney taught me that, because at a certain point, like, I was a different person, like, especially after 9/11, I was a more politicized person. And I think I had a lot of things I wanted to say and a lot of things I was writing and I wanted to make funny. And I was afraid to.